gone. They defended me along that railroad cut at Second Manassas by throwing rocks. I saw the fields turn red at Sharpsburg. Brave men carried me across Doctor's Creek in Perry. I saw the blue bodies carpet Mary's Heights at Fredericksburg. I saw the gray bodies fall like leaves in the round forest at Murfreesboro. I am their flag. I was a shroud for old Stonewall after Chancellorsville. Men ate rats and mule meat to keep me flying over Vicksburg. I tramped across the wheat field with Kemper, Garnett, Armistead, Gettysburg. I know the thrill of victory. I know the misery of defeat. I know the cost and blood of both those things. I am their flag. When Longstreet broke the line at Chickamauga, I was in the lead. I was the last one off Lookout Mountain. Men died to rescue me at Missionary Ridge. I was singed with the wildfire that burned to death the wounded in the wilderness. I was shot to tatters in the Bloody Angle in Spotsylvania. I saw it all from Dalton to Peachtree Creek, and no worse places did I ever see than at Kennesaw Mountain or New Hope Church. They planted me above those trenches at Petersburg, Virginia, and there I stayed for many. I am their flag. I was rolled in blood at Franklin. I was stiff with ice at Nashville. Many good men bade me farewell at Sailor's Creek. When the end came at Appomattox, at last Johnny Reb left Durham Station. Hundreds of them had fragments of my fabric about their bodies. I am their flag. In those hard years that we call Reconstruction, and the difficulty and despair of those times that so slowly went by, the veterans and their wives, their sons and their daughters, they loved me. They kept alive the tales of valor, the legends of bravery. They passed them on to their children, and they to theirs, and they to theirs, and so now those stories are passed to you. I am their flag. I have shrouded the bodies of heroes. I have been laved with the blood of martyrs. I am enshrined in the hearts of millions, both living and dead. The sons salute me with affection and reverence. They pledge undying devotion to me in their hearts. For I am part of your history. I am part of your heritage. I do not belong in the hands of those who take me, but I am the living reminder of the valor of your flesh and blood. Look away, Tennessee land. I am their flag.
Here in Delaware, Delaware, here in Georgetown, Delaware, at this beautiful Confederate Memorial site for the ceremony. Here in Carriage Historical Museum in Georgetown, Delaware. Amen.
Everyone can go back and enjoy the food that's been prepared. You're welcome to come up and get a picture at the monument, and I can show you where the inmate is on the back. Let's sing Dixie. We're outside.
Just cotton, no time there.
Look away, in Dixieland where I was born, early on across the morn. Look away, Dixieland. And I wish I was in Dixie. Hooray, hooray! In Dixie's land I'll take my stand, I'll live and die in Dixie.
Away, away downtown.
Way down south in Dixie.
All right, y'all, if you're just joining us, I'm here in Delaware, here in Georgetown, Delaware, at this Confederate memorial right here. Another name was recently engraved here. There were, as I understand, a couple thousand locals from Delaware that served in the Confederacy. This is the Georgetown Marble Carriage Museum, or maybe it's just called Carriage Museum now. It's a wonderful museum. I encourage you, if you're ever around this part of Delaware, to stop by here. It's also the Historical Type Society, also type the County Museum. So there's many great relics and artifacts here. A lot of carriages, a lot of interesting artifacts. Really among the most impressive county-related type museums. This is the entire area through here. Really appreciate the Delaware Grays and also the United Daughters Confederacy that are represented here, who helped make this memorial possible. I'm just gonna wait until the crowds die down so I can get a little closer view here, share with you real soon. If you ever come out here to Delaware, come here to Georgetown, I encourage you to stop by here. And of course, not only pay respects to those who served, those who answered the call and served. You can read the names of those who served in the Confederacy from this area and also in general in Delaware. See the battle flag on the left and also the Delaware state flag on the right side. This is a great museum. I encourage you to stop by if you're around here. They have some historic buildings that were moved here. Like, for example, the schoolhouse right here. Over here, old church building was moved over here. I'm gonna wait for the crowds to die down. Everybody's heading over for some good food. All these buildings are filled with relics and artifacts and all kinds of memorabilia from this area and just Americana in general. There's a whole section over here devoted just to phones, old phones. It's pretty fascinating. It's an old little gas station over here. You gotta see a blacksmith shop. You see a Western Auto Associates store. Here's the Ellis School District. share with you the monument here real soon. Just waiting for the crowds to die down just a little bit. There's a plane flying overhead right now because there is a airport at the end of a runway not too far from here. These buildings are closed right now, but maybe I'll have a chance to do a walkthrough later on. The president of the Georgetown Historical Society and one who leads this is here right now, so I'll probably make a special request here soon so we can walk through some of these buildings, because I've been here at least half dozen times and haven't had a chance to see inside several of these buildings yet. I have been inside some of them, but just doing a quick walk. Okay, I'll approach the Confederate Memorial over here and read some of it off to you. Here in Delaware. See right here, it says, erected by the United Daughters of Confederacy, Caleb Ross Chapter, 2635. And the Sons of Confederate Veterans, Delaware, Grays, Camp, 2068. Thank you, Delaware Grays. Thank you to UDC, Caleb Ross Chapter. Thank you for making this possible. Great examples for all of us. Love the Delaware Grays. Really good folks here. See the names. See the names here of those who served, engraved on all sides, which is kind of reminiscent. Kind of reminiscent of what you'll find often on the older Confederate memorials too, because the older Confederate memorials often have the names of those who served engraved as well. Also, it includes those who are civilians as well. For example, this top one, William Atkinson, Southern sympathizer, pre-war sheriff, post-war Delaware congressman. Civilians right here.
We have three certified NRA.
See on all sides the names of those who served and supported the Confederacy, not just here, but also right here as well.
Every year we ride my back and walk 6 miles to these guys and camp for the weekend with nothing just in battle. And they get a kick out of it. I've been fortunate enough to, well,
fortunately, we got with your soldiers.
It was a hard time getting out.
I already have some cousin that's already been.
And she's in the daughter.
Well, I haven't pursued it from the Civil War back, but I have a lot of notations for it. It's just
Did they? Abraham.
I've met some military.
My dad was in his 90s.
So they had the American Revolution, then his son was civil.
My great-grandfather.
Oh, my dad's.
My great.
Here's some names of those from Delaware, serving the Confederacy.
On George Washington's birthday, and it's his older two brothers, William and Joseph, that joined the first Mellon right off the bat. Both were wounded at Petersburg, but Joseph, he escaped the hospital, so he wouldn't be a prisoner of France. But William, he rejoined his company.
Once again, if you're just joining me, I'm over here in Delaware. Of course, we know that Delaware was a Union state. It incidentally happened to be a Union state that was a slave state. In fact, there were actually more slave states under Lincoln's control in the Union than there was in the Confederacy when Lincoln decided to invade the South on April 15th, 1861. When he made that decision to invade the South and subjugate them and conquer them, Lincoln actually had more slave states than the Confederacy did, than the South did. Delaware being one of them. Virginia was still in the Union at the time. They had voted to stay in the Union at that time. Of course, Tennessee and Missouri. North Carolina still was at the time. But there are many from Delaware that served in the Confederacy, and very, very few had joined the Confederacy for anything to do with slavery. Vast majority were non-slave owners. Nearly all were non-slave owners from Delaware that served in the Confederacy. That's why John Bell, who was the presidential candidate who won Virginia, said, look, if this is a matter of slavery, just stay in the Union. The Union already defends slavery. Lincoln himself was defending slavery. The Supreme Court defended slavery. The Constitution allowed slavery. So to them and many others, said, if you really want to make this matter of slavery, just stay in the Union. If you want to protect slavery, stay there. And accept what Lincoln's pushing, the Corwin Amendment and other amendments to the Constitution to indefinitely keep it forever. Lincoln promises to protect slavery for many more years than even the Confederacy was planning on keeping it. And some people might think that's revisionist history, but no, just read the documents, read the original documents, read what he said himself. It's too bad it's omitted and ignored, censored, left out of textbooks, but read his own words. I've shared those commentary. I've shared the actual extracts from their own words. So really very impressive. Beautiful memorial here in Delaware. Hi. Let me put this on a tripod here for a minute. So I can get this out of the way. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you again, honey. How is it?
Oh, good. Last saw you out there on the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
I've got this one, so I'm gonna step away. This one's actually on doing a live video on YouTube, and that one's on Facebook.
Okay.
And mainly because I figure might as well share it. Keep this. I know so many times people wish they could be here. All the time they're saying, "Oh, I wish I could be here."
Well, listen, I appreciate all of your posts, no matter where you are. But I especially like that you've promoted this, and I think it gives people a perspective of what it is and why we're here.
That's the entire tent.
Because I'll tell you, I've been through some stuff with this.
Yeah, I know. I only know part of it,
Yeah.
and I want to thank you for that.
I'm a tough old buzzard, so don't worry.
You know, well, that reminds me a little bit of. It's gonna refocus this in a little bit. That reminds me a little bit, for example, over there in south side of Petersburg, there is a lady who owned that property for a long time. And she remembers how it was a nice area at one time, but slowly but surely people started moving in, you know, these outsiders, and it turned this once really nice, peaceful countryside into just a terrible, awful place. They would actually, it looks like you're in Africa over there.
Yeah.
Well, with that is the gangs and drugs and the crime and the shootings and everything else. Well, she wanted a battle flag, so she contacted the Virginia flaggers, and they put a battle flag up there about 7 years ago now. And they were expecting some problems when they arrived. And so there was actually people armed putting this battle flag up. They left them alone, no issues. And she's had that flag out there nonstop for 6 years, and she's never had an issue.
Till now.
Well, even now.
Oh, not now?
Yeah.
Nice presentation, sir.
Oh, thanks. You look awesome. I love your uniform. So, anyways, but I say that because when all the craziness was happening in 2020, Susan Lee, who leads the Virginia Flaggers,
Yes.
said, "Oh, I want, yeah, that's how." But she called one of the helpers. She said, "Would you put the flag until this craziness, dissipates and things, people calm down?" And one of the guys says, "Look, I joined the Virginia Flaggers to put flags up, not to take them down."
Yeah.
But anyways, he said, okay, got another guy who was willing to do it because after Susan Lee leads the Virginia Flaggers. And they went out there and started taking down a flag, which is on the front of her property. And only not too far, maybe only not even 100 feet from her house. And she came out there and says, "What are you doing?" She says, "Well, we got orders to take this down." She says, "You leave that alone. You put that flag right back up there." She says, "Well, we're concerned about what's going on." There's, I don't care what they do. You leave that flag up.
I think most of what we've been through has probably been scare tactics, trying to get us to say, okay, yeah. And then when you don't, and when you've got all of these facts and stuff laid out, then they don't know what to do with you.
Yes. Yes. And that's what's so interesting about that is sometimes the most devoted people are the ones who once believed that there was a time. Like I was not too long ago, I was in Fredericksburg, and I had a battle flag on my shirt. I should have brought that, but anyway, a guy came up, and first thing he says, "I love your flag." And I looked around, this black man. He says, "So check out my flag." And he's got a Confederate flag on his bicycle. And he said, "Look, I went to the Marines. I met the good folks. I learned. I read it myself. I figured it out. I realized I got a bunch of hogwash. They were trying to pull my leg."
Yeah.
So, anyways, and that's just what it comes down to. That's why, like, there's this one video of this. The video starts out by saying, some people were upset that there was this Confederate flag hanging in a dorm room in this college campus, and you can see it out the window. And the students were walking by. And they said, "Who is this?" And it was a black guy. And basically it was because he said, "Look, I did my own research. I made my own good decisions. I can think for myself. I saw what it was all about." And I wish more people were like that.
But somebody will start talking and they just follow. They don't know whether it's right or wrong, they just go.
Exactly. That's why so many of these attacks were at summer 2020, and a lot of these leftist organizations like Soros. I talked to a lot of locals that have traveled around. They said, "Look, we're just this nice little town. In fact, we're more than 50% black. And next thing you know, a couple buses pull, a bunch of people start unloading off the bus, and they were all paid.
Yeah.
They were saying, "Hey, we'll tell you what, we'll pay you money to go scream and yell in this other town. We'll feed you, take care." So anyways, and this one guy says, "Yeah, the black guys just got out there." Says, "You get out of here. This is our town. And this is our monument. Get out of here." Yeah, I love it. Those are the people who don't get to have a voice, though. The news doesn't talk to them much.
Well, last May, they had the town election, and the mayor, he got reelected, and he said his first thing was to get rid of this. It's still here.
Wow, it's amazing.
It's still here.
So those are the kind of things where I'd like to once in a while say, please contact the mayor. Be respectful, but hey, let them know how you think about this.
But that's how it was with us with this. A lot of the letters were from California and New York. They weren't from there. It's just.
That's what I've seen in a lot of places. Is
Who cares what California thinks?
no, that's exactly right. Well, I've seen that happen in so many places, like in Alabama, when they were having their salaries. And they said, next thing you know, almost all the funding came from out of state. Everybody, and it's with these our legacy? Are you going to really appreciate our museums and support our history? And usually people don't ask that, or they're never confronted with that.
Right.
But next thing you know, sometimes these positions are almost uncontested sometimes.
And that happens here a lot.
That's why I tell people, think locally, act locally. Just what Brian McClanahan, control the local area.
And I think a lot of these are going to be uncontested, or the local will drop out, because I think people are just sick and tired of being run over, and people moving in not knowing and taking over. And you came here because you didn't want to be like there, so now you're here making there here.
Exactly.
You know?
In fact, that's one of the yard signs I have.
I
It's
said,
like,
you know what? I'm gonna just say
welcome
a
to
prayer,
Dixie.
and maybe I'll get lucky.
Oh, you're welcome to the South. Welcome to our town. But if you want to try to turn it into the broken place that you just left from, just please do that.
Well, listen, come up and get something to eat.
Good. I'll talk to you here soon again. All right, y'all. For those of you just joining me, I was talking to somebody, so I set this on a tripod. But here I am in Georgetown, Delaware. So this is Delaware, and this is the Confederate Memorial that's right here. Just had a wonderful ceremony. Just inside. Yeah, I shared this memorial with you just briefly, maybe not only 10 minutes ago, but I'll do it I'll make one more pass, and then I'm gonna go in for some good food. So I don't want to miss the opportunity for some good food here. Thank goodness, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Telegram and Signal anyway. So, and that's why I got a kick out of this big flap over Signal. It just came out. These guys didn't call it. Oh, well, this happened.
So just had a ceremony here.
What's Signal?
There was a recognition of some new names that were added as a memorial. It's a living memorial. New names are frequently added. As I travel around the South, you see that happen, where names are often added later. For example, the King George, Virginia monument, there was all the names that were engraved well over 100 years ago, and later on they said, well, we forgot about 50 names, and so what they did is they added it separately on a separate part of the base, so it was different. You can see some of the wreaths that were placed here. I was asked to speak. Thank you for the Delaware Grays for allowing me to make some comments here. And most of my comments focused on just the appreciation, the gratitude I have for the SCV and the UDC, the OCR, Mechanized Cavalry, others who make these beautiful memorial sites possible. One more swing around here at this one, and then I'll do a little walking through here, because this is Georgetown, Delaware. This is the Marvel Carriage Museum. Now, I won't be walking any buildings right now. The meeting is just over here. We're having some food right now, so I'm gonna head over there. I'm the last one to leave right here for now. But here is the memorial. We had a representative from the Sons of Confederate Veterans that was here, and also the United Daughters of Confederacy. You can read about this right here. It says, erected by the United Daughters of the Confederacy, the Caleb Ross Chapter 2635, and the Sons of Confederate Veterans, Delaware Grays Camp 2068. They did a wonderful job, did some research, and they've collected as many names as they could here. The names of those from Delaware. Who served in the Confederacy. And on this side also, filled with all the names all the way up here. The names from those from Delaware that served. I'm sure for many of them, they felt like they were doing the exact same thing as their founding fathers had done, and they knew the South was right. The South had a legal, constitutional right to go ahead and seek independence from an increasingly tyrannical government wanting to control and dictate their lives. So here is more names were added after the fact. Beautiful scene right here. You can see the more names on the side. And not just those who served as soldiers, but also civilians. Like right here. Southern sympathizers. They were often Congress people. And I'll finish this up right here, and then I'll start walking this other direction. But once again, on all four sides, truly what this is a war memorial, right? To a war memorial. Those who served and died. Many, I'm sure, are buried in unmarked graves and unknown locations. So it's important to have these war memorials in different places like this. I'm actually also sharing this on YouTube, on Dixie Forever YouTube. And the reason I do that is because Facebook came out with a new policy that they delete these live videos after 30 days. So this video will be gone after 30 days, whereas YouTube will allow it indefinitely for now. And plus, I like to reach a larger audience. I've been doing this for years. I do not get paid for this. I am not monetized. It might happen someday, but I am not monetized. It'd be nice to have something, maybe cover some gas money once in a while, but this all completely comes out of pocket. Just a labor of love, just one of my hobbies, one of the things I enjoy doing. I enjoy sharing these moments with you. But as I've traveled around over the last several years, I've stayed at 400 different places, and costs do add up here and there. And as you know, my personality is I have never asked for money, and I'm not doing this to make money at all. I do appreciate coming out here, seeing these important sites. But I say it because I share this on Facebook. It's on Facebook Live right now, and also also YouTube, because after all, Facebook now says they're going to delete these videos after a while. At least we can keep these on YouTube for a little while. And also I could take other video as well. It's a beautiful scene. Here at Delaware, this is Georgetown, Delaware, at the Marvel Carriage Museum. I'm not sure if they call it Marvel anymore, but it's Carriage Museum, also known as it's also the Historical Society. Takes probably a little over, maybe about 2 hours, about 2-hour drive. If you're ever to come out here, I encourage you to come out here. If you're ever around this part of the country, might as well fly. My goal is to stop by and see Point Lookout, maybe probably tomorrow. It's that massive POW, that famous or infamous POW camp there in Point Lookout on the very southern tip of Maryland, on the one of the Outer Banks, one of the Five Fingers, just a little bit south of St. Mary's, which was the original first capital of Maryland. But my goal is to go over there tomorrow. I've already talked to some folks about that. They've got a new memorial. They got a new monument over there. That's really cool to hear. And they have a couple other monuments too. One is the monument that was in Silver Springs, Maryland. It was the memorial in a gravesite, in a cemetery, a graveyard beside a church, where 17 Southern Americans who fought the Confederacy were buried. They were buried when they were part of Jubal Early's force that came up to pressure Washington, D.C. and try to take some of the pressure off of the Petersburg campaign. But there was 17 that died. They were buried there. And incredibly, during the 2020 quote-unquote Summer of Love, when all the rioters came through and all those Marxists came through, they ended up toppling that memorial that was in a graveyard. And it has been relocated over there to Point Lookout. Looks like the wind has died down a little bit for now. Well, spoke too soon. It certainly is a beautiful sight, though. Here at the Georgetown, Delaware, looks like the County Museum. Also a carriage museum. A lot of great displays here. Love it. Looks like the wind's picking up a little bit. So I figure I'd just keep this live video on just for a little bit more before I head in there. They're having lunch right now. I'm anxious to join them because I did miss breakfast this morning. But, when there's beautiful scenes like this, I love to be able to stop by and stop and just take it all in. And I'll also just share it with you. Maybe I didn't finish my thought, but this is about 2 hours eastward of Washington, D.C. You have to drive through Maryland from D.C. and into Delaware here. One of the places I like to stop along the way once in a while is to see the historical signs, make sure they haven't been removed, because I did notice that was one that was removed. And basically the historical marker spoke about what Union soldiers did, pretty much breaking the Constitution. In many ways, they say the 1864 election was the most corrupt ever, because and the historical marker reminds us what Union soldiers did, where they pretty much would interrogate you before you went to the poll and before you voted. And if you had the slightest little inkling of Southern sympathy, you risked being thrown on a boat and thrown in a gulag, thrown in some prison somewhere. Can you imagine that happening again? So one of the historical markers that I went to go visit spoke about how Lincoln overstepped his constitutional authority, and when Union soldiers arrived, they would just start rounding folks up if there was any indication that they were Southern sympathizers. And one of those was, they spoke about how one guy said, "Hurrah for Jeff Davis." Well, the Union soldiers bound him, threw him on a ship, and shipped him off to a POW camp, just for simply saying that. The press, we all know the Union soldiers destroyed about 300 news presses because they didn't want the people to know and express their feelings and emotions. They fully were behind. There was never a greater movement for censorship than during the Lincoln administration. That's why, as we think about it, the founding fathers were trying to protect us from tyrants like Lincoln. If you go to places like Alexandria, there's signs that says where the Union soldiers would show up to a church and say and force the preachers to pray for Lincoln. And if there was any indication that you showed any sympathy at all for the South, they would destroy your press or destroy your church. And that happened. There's some signs there I've shared before of what the Union soldiers did to the preachers and the press, the editors, the civilians. That's one of the reasons I think those like Delaware, from Delaware, supported the Confederacy. And that's why we have memorials like this in Delaware, where you see here the Confederate, basically a form of the Confederate battle flag, and also the Delaware flag beside it. Yeah, I know it's more of maybe could be technically could call it a naval jack. I know it's a different form. You call it the rebel flag. It's not exactly the Army of Northern Virginia. It's a form of it, but the idea is it's recognizable. But it is amazing how I guess you could say how hateful the left has come over a period of time. Because it really wasn't that long ago. Or you could be in California or Oregon or Washington and see quite a few Confederate battle flags. You'd see them at concerts, see them in bumper stickers, they'd be around. And it's amazing how much has changed. And liberals, there was a time that liberals would fly the Confederate battle flag because they had something in common. To them, it was a resistance to a centralized government. That's why I like to separate liberals between liberals and leftists. Liberals are very different than leftists. So liberals would tolerate that. You would see hippies. You wouldn't have too much of a problem with the Confederate battle flag. To them, it was being a rebel from the government and thinking your way and not feeling like you needed to bow down to centralized authority or like a police state. And that's exactly what happened to the Confederacy. All right, I'm talking a little bit too much, and I am starting to miss out on the food. But I'll tell you what, before I go in there, let's go ahead and read this. I should have been reading this the whole time, because this, I'm sure, has better commentary than me. This is Delaware citizens who fought for the South. And I might as well read this. This monument sheds light on the fact that citizens here felt so strongly during the Civil War that they left their state, farms, businesses, and families to head south to enlist. Delaware men served in units from Virginia to Texas. The journey itself was perilous to evade the blockades to the south. There were many different routes to enlist south, but the main one was to get to Seaford and sail down the Nanticoke River and over the Chesapeake Bay to Virginia. Delaware during this time was deeply divided over the question of the secession of the southern states from the Union. Volunteers from Delaware came from all three counties, with the majority originating from Kent and Sussex. The men came from all walks of life, doctors and engineers to farmers and sharecroppers. Delaware's geographic position and its north-south split between industrial and agricultural economies reflected the country as a whole. Although there were Delawareans throughout the state that supported the president's position, northern Newcastle County tended to be heavily pro-Union, while many southern Delawareans sympathized with the southern states, supported the Union or the Confederacy. Pretty much everyone wanted a peaceful solution, even if it meant allowing the southern states to break away from the Union. And it lists those. It says here, more than 13,000 Delawareans fought for the Union, including 954 African-American troops. Estimates of the number of Delawareans who were enlisted with Confederate unions came from a recap of the war by Union general ranged from 300 to 3,000 men. One estimate showed that 78% of men between the ages of 15 and 45 from Delaware had served on the Union side during the war. If the possible 3,000 Delaware men who served with the Southern units were added to percentages, the estimate goes to well over 80%. So an astonishing 80% of Delaware men between the ages had been away at war and had left the burden to their wives or families to run their farms and businesses. I didn't quite read all of it. It does list those who supported the South there. You can see, I don't know why anybody would have a problem with a memorial, war memorial. After all, Southerners, locals, they deserve a memorial as well. All right, so I'm gonna start heading this way. So once again, if you're just joining me, sharing a fairly long video here. I'm in Georgetown, Delaware. We just had the ceremony for this Confederate memorial, hosted by the Delaware Grays, a wonderful SCV group here in Delaware. Really good folks. And this is at the Georgetown, Delaware County Historical Society and Museum, also known as the Carriage Museum, or once called the Marvel Carriage Museum. And what they've done is move some buildings like this here, like this church right here. It dates back to 1890. So there's this memorial right here, and also this school building that was moved here as well. And there's a lot of artifacts and relics, memorabilia, lots of Americana here as well. Once again, I'm sharing this on YouTube and also Facebook, mainly because Facebook changed their policy. They're going to remove all live videos now after 30 days. And so and YouTube does not have that policy. Finishing some of my thoughts, I was planning on going to Point Lookout POW camp tomorrow in the Confederate cemetery that's over there on the southern edge of one of the points. Really good folks there. So, just a wonderful, if you're ever around this area, this is one of the places to stop in. Also, just north of here, I think, what was it, Fort Finn, or there was another POW camp just north of here, just inside New Jersey line, where there was about 3,500 Southern Americans buried there in a cemetery. They're all unmarked graves that had died during their imprisonment there at the POW camp. Thankfully, though, the U.S. government did erect an obelisk to them and did collect as many names as possible and did list their names around all four sides. But the obelisk, which is probably close to, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 feet tall, it's a pretty tall obelisk there in this POW camp just north of here in New Jersey. It says built by the United States government, and basically representing those roughly about 3,500 Southern Americans buried there who died in that POW camp, who had served in the Confederacy. And so it's a field without a head. Well, there are headstones, but not for the Confederates who died there while imprisoned. So that's really, I'm guessing, as I remember, maybe an hour and a half drive north of here or so. But south of here is probably about, I'm guessing another, well, it's more south westward is Point Lookout, where another about 3,500 Southern Americans are buried there. Many people have ancestors who are buried there. And once again, that one, like the others, pretty much all entirely unmarked graves at Point Lookout. And that's probably about, I'm guessing, about an hour and a half drive or so from here. So these are definitely some places worth stopping by and seeing if you're ever around this area. All right, I think I'm going to go in because everybody left. We had a really nice ceremony today. Some great speakers, including Vinny was there. I was asked to speak. I spoke for about 10 minutes. Some other great speakers. Some really wonderful, great folks here. And now they left here to have some lunch. And so I'm going to go in there and go have some lunch. Especially because I missed breakfast this morning. I figured I'd just leave this scene with you for a little bit. Encourage you to come out here to Georgetown, Delaware, if you ever have a chance to see this site. So take care, y'all. Once again, from Delaware, from Georgetown, Delaware, at the Marble Carriage Museum. Do one last pan around here. Take care. Talk to y'all later. May God bless you. May God bless and save America. May God bless and save Dixie.